As the sky is torn apart by the daggers of cruise missiles and the roar of fighter jets over the facilities of Isfahan and the missile silos, the invaders' bitter gamble begins. A gamble whose cost will be borne by the lives of American servicemen, young men who fell victims to Netanyahu's aspirations and Trump's folly. However, Iran's response will come as a lightning bolt that suddenly strikes the torso of their pride, as a storm of veiled fury will rise from the heart of the soil. Against all odds, the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford will, amid the relentless barrage of drones and ballistic missiles, turn into a wandering hell on water. In addition to that, the fighter hangars at the Al-Dafra base and the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet will be leveled to the ground under crushing blows. Moreover, the crucial artery of Hormuz will be shut down by Iran's iron will. The pulse of the world's energy trade will be silenced amid the flames of rage. To wrap things up, the thunderous roar of Khorramshahr and Khaybar Shekan will send the coffins of American soldiers back home. Remember, we stand strong to the end.
There he is, the boss dog. Man, it's a hot one today. Watching the world burn, July 8th, 2026. Let's get into it. Before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe. To avoid censorship, watch my videos on BitChute and Rumble at The Burn Channel, and then on YouTube and Telegram, I am The Burn Report, and of course on X, I am at that CyberSec guy. All right, what'd you think of those videos up front? As of the making of this video, Iran has struck 3 commercial ships that were trying to circumvent their blockage of the Straits of Hormuz. And from what I understand, a drone may have hit a U.S. base. The United States has hit one of the biggest strikes on Iran. So we're heating up. We all knew that memorandum of understanding was a bogus piece of paper. Certainly not one that Trump was going to give any mind to. So it looks like we're, at least for the time being, tit for tat, back in a shooting war with Iran. We'll see where it goes. I think that they're threatening to shut down the Strait of Hormuz once again. So, anyway, let's get, I got this video. This is a really sick video. Now, I don't think this is AI. This was put out not too long ago, but these are Israelis watching a movie of their troops bombing Lebanon. Let's watch that video. All right, by the way, the theme of this video is all about Iran, Israel, and the war. Okay, we're not going to hit on any other topics other than that. So if you don't want to hear about Iran or Israel or the war, then you can tune out right now if you want. So this is Ben Swann. I wanted to play this because if you look back through my videos, I speculated, or I've told people that the Hannibal Directive was in effect on that October 7th when Hamas came across and attacked Israel. Okay? And more evidence is coming out that I was correct. And Ben Swann did a great video. It's actually 9 minutes long. I hate taking somebody else's video all the way through, but he did such a perfect job. I just got to give him credit. Let's see, you can find him on X at @BenSwann_. And I'll just read you what he says. October 7th, sanitized story just cracked open, and the footage is damning. For years, Americans were fed a heavy sanitized version of what really happened on October 7th. One of the most advanced military and intelligence apparatuses on Earth stood down for 7 hours while its own citizens were slaughtered and taken hostage by Hamas. Yeah, a lot of people have pointed that out. You know, basically Gaza, even at that time, was just an open-air prison with walls all around it. You know, observation towers. I would dare say it was a concentration camp. You know, that nobody could have come across or escaped unless they stood down. The Hannibal Directive, once dismissed as a fringe conspiracy theory, is now being confirmed as fact. The burnt cars, the flattened homes, the devastating human toll that were used to justify Israel's military response, justify the mass devastation in Gaza, I would say the Holocaust in Gaza, are now being confirmed as engineered by the Israeli government itself. One of the things I pointed out to you in a previous video, or previous videos, those cars were hit from above. The only thing that Hamas had was just those little gliders that they brought in to get over the wall. Okay? So even if they had heavy weapons, they couldn't have damaged those cars from above. Those cars were obliterated, and you'll see that in the video. I pointed that out, and everybody, oh no, Israel wouldn't kill their own students. They wouldn't kill their own people. No, Israel would never do that. A new documentary is now surfacing footage of senior Israeli officials appearing to coordinate a mass Hannibal event in real time. In the opening hours of Operation Al-Aqsa, AQSA, flood, while speaking at Israel's police chief, Kobi Sabiti, Shabtai, a senior officer is heard calling to implement the Hannibal Directive, ordering Gaza destroyed, along with the Israeli captives still inside. Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir then walks in and orders the cameras turned off. Charlie Kirk, shortly before his assassination, I just want to inject here. A lot of people think Israel assassinated Charlie Kirk, you know, and that's why there was a huge cover-up of what actually took place. In fact, Chris Mortensen just came out with his analysis of what actually took place. And it makes perfect sense, you know, because he went out and they did a bunch of experiments trying to duplicate, and they're saying that there's no way that Tyler Robinson made that shot from a lower building because the bullet would have gone right through Charlie Kirk. Now, some people have speculated that his mic blew up. Martinson puts that to dust. So what Martinson said is that it came from a building much higher, so that the bullet came down at a steep angle and entered Charlie Kirk. I don't know whether it was on the right side. I think it was on the left side as you're facing. So it actually came down and went into his body. That's why that chest cavity flies up and the necklace flies out, and the bullet never exited. So if it was coming down at an angle, it will wedge in the body. That's the only thing that makes sense. Anyway, shortly before his assassination, questioned, was there a stand-down order given by Israel on October 7th? 6 hours to respond. I don't believe it. They're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza. The new footage now proves these questions weren't out of bounds. And there's a video on that. Let's watch that now.
For nearly 3 years, you have been given a highly sanitized, strictly police narrative about what occurred in Israel on October 7th. We've been told a very specific story, right? Anyone who stepped outside of that story, anyone who asked logical questions about how one of the most advanced militaries on earth stood down for 7 hours while its own citizens were attacked and killed was immediately branded, you know the words, conspiracy theorist, anti-Semitic. But what happens when the official narrative begins to splinter under the weight of actual evidence? See, tonight, new documentary footage has emerged out of Israel. This isn't speculation from the dark corners of the internet. This is raw footage of a high-ranking Israeli official caught on camera in the chaos of October 7th, speaking in Hebrew, explicitly coordinating what can only be described as something called the Hannibal Directive. Watch this.
הייתי עכשיו מפציץ את כל קו הרצועה עם ארטילריה, דופק להם מכה על מנת שתהיה להם בעיה. ממש להם על זה. כתבתי את זה לאבי. הם לא מעלים מזכרים, את רוצה שנראה? לא, על עזה. שורק את הכל. עם החיילים שחטפו להם.
אלו הרגעים הראשונים בחמ"ל המשטרה.
איפה? באיזה יישוב?
עוד לפני שהשר הממונה יגיע. בטרם יוחלט מה לשידור ומה לצנזור.
רגע, אתה מצלם שם? אני נותן לך אישור, אתה צלם את זה. תוציא את זה בבקשה.
Okay, if you read that bottom line there, he said, please take this out. Think about that for a moment. Why would a government minister in the middle of a national crisis panic over a camera capturing tactical discussions only to be viewed later? What were they trying to hide? Well, I'm glad you asked. They wanted to hide that the command was just uttering on tape, quote, break it all apart, along with the soldiers who were abducted. What does that mean? That is something called the Hannibal Directive. 2 years ago, I was one of the very first reporters in the U.S. to actually report on this whole situation and exposed at the time the fact that Israel had clearly used the Hannibal Directive. Here is some of that report. When the IDF began to finally use their firepower and military to engage Hamas in southern Israel, did they exclusively target enemy militants? Well, evidence actually points to no. To understand what the Israeli military did to their own civilians on October 7th, you have to understand the political aspirations of Hamas and what the goal of taking hostages is. Political leverage. There are over 10,000 Palestinians in Israeli jails, 3,000 of whom have not been to trial or charged with a crime. When militant groups manage to capture Israeli civilians or soldiers, it gives them leverage to force a prisoner swap and to get some of their people out of Israeli prison. For example, in 1986, Hamas managed to kidnap 3 Israeli soldiers and bring them into Gaza. They demanded 1,150 Palestinian prisoners in return for those 3 soldiers. Well, after this, the military drafted a secret field order to prevent future kidnappings. It was called the Hannibal Directive. The directive gets its name from the Carthaginian general who chose to poison himself rather than allow himself to be captured alive by the Romans. Back in 2003, again, strangely enough, October 7th, 2003, 3 Israeli soldiers were taken hostage and brought into Lebanon. Following the activation of the Hannibal Directive, IDF attack helicopters fired indiscriminately on 26 vehicles, thus ensuring the death of their own soldiers and therefore robbing Lebanese militants of the ability to demand Israel make concessions. Again, that report was from 2 years ago. So now you know. The Hannibal Directive dictates that if an Israeli soldier or citizen is on the verge of being captured or taken hostage, or if they are captured by enemy forces, the military's priority is to neutralize the kidnapping at all costs, even if it means killing any and all Israeli hostages alongside their captors. It's meant to prevent enemy factions from gaining leverage in future prisoner exchange negotiations. On October 7th, we not only saw the Hannibal Directive in action, we saw something that a former Israeli official called at the time a mass Hannibal event. Now, the Israeli government claims that they officially canceled this directive in 2016 because they deemed it was too brutal, too unethical. But all the evidence pointing to October 7th tells a completely different story. Look at the evidence. For months, mainstream media broadcasted horrifying images of this highway you're looking at right now, leading away from the Nova Music Festival, where the attacks first started. We saw rows upon rows upon rows of cars, not just burned, but completely incinerated. In fact, many of those cars were melted. The media line was instantaneous. Hamas did this. Hamas torched these cars. This was a major part of the claim as to why extreme brutality was justified in Gaza. But let's apply some basic logic here, shall we? The Hamas fighters who crossed the border came on motorcycles and pickup trucks carrying AK-47s and light rocket-propelled grenades. An AK-47 fires small lead bullets. It cannot vaporize a row of sedans. It cannot melt engine blocks. It does not possess the capability to turn an entire highway into a graveyard of melted steel. You know what can do that, though? Hellfire missiles, autocannons, the type of heavy weapons deployed by Israeli Apache helicopters. Again, I explained this in great detail 2 years ago, and the response was, that can't be true. Israel would not do this to its own people. And yet this new documentary footage confirms that the orders were caught on video, and it matched exactly what we saw on the ground. The military was explicitly told to break it all apart along with the soldiers who were abducted. Let's also not forget the instances inside the multiple kibbutz communities where Israeli tanks shelled civilian homes full of hostages, killing Israelis inside to eliminate the Hamas fighters who were holding them. And again, why did it take the Israeli military 7 hours to launch a coordinated defense, but Apache helicopters were instantly greenlit to shell fleeing vehicles headed towards Gaza? For months, only a select few truth seekers were willing to ask these questions. People who refused to accept the corporate media script. People like Charlie Kirk.
But I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Whew. Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is...
It is a non-conspiracy question. It's a straightforward question. Was there a stand down order? It's a question any competent journalist should have asked. We asked it. But Charlie faced immense, vicious pushback from the establishment for daring to voice it. In fact, if you go online right now, there's an entire undercurrent of speculation suggesting that Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't just a random act of political violence and it had nothing to do with transgenderism. Some are openly questioning if he was targeted for asking those very questions. Now, obviously, there's no evidence he was killed over those questions, at least not yet. But what is confirmed, what is documented beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that multiple pieces of evidence are coming directly from the mouths of Israeli officials themselves. Listen to former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant when he was cornered on this exact topic just over a year ago.
ישירות, אני חושב שבאופן טקטי במקומות שונים ניתנה, ובמקומות אחרים לא ניתנה, וזו בעיה.
Yeah, in some places it was, he said. He admits it. He admits the use of the Hannibal Directive on October 7th. Yet, when independent journalists pointed towards those words a year ago, they were ignored and discredited. Today, the Israeli government still officially denies it. They claim they do not recognize that directive. But the footage doesn't lie, and the images don't lie. The question is no longer whether or not the Hannibal Directive was deployed on October 7th. The evidence proves it was. The real question now is, what will the world do with this truth? Because think about it. Every single piece of explosive evidence we just showed you, every bit of it, the documentary footage, the insider testimonies, the internal reports, the politicians, it is all in Hebrew. Virtually none of it's being broadcast in English, the language we're speaking right now. And that is entirely by design. See, none of these secrets were meant for American eyes or for American ears. So how did we find out about it? Because on this show, we never stop asking the questions that most mainstream journalists avoid. We refuse to consume that spoon-fed information handed to us, and when the situation demands it, we get our hands dirty. We'll go directly to the source and we translate what is actually being said on the ground. Because when you do, you discover the staggering scope of what we have been systematically blindfolded from. The missing signs, the catastrophic, inexplicable failures, and all the lies that have been told to you and to me for 3 long years.
All right. So now we got a lot of good question. I tell you what, I never liked the Young Turks. I thought they were left-wing radical lunatics for a long time. But I tell you what, they're coming around. I'm watching them more and more, and I'm glad that I am. They're doing some great reporting. And I tell you that Anna, not only is she good looking, she's doing some great reporting. And what's the other guy? Cecil? I can't remember his name. Anyway, they made a video on how much we spent in the Iran war, and they did a fantastic job. So if you're curious about where your taxpayer dollars are going under the Trump administration, let's watch the Young Turks now as they describe where all your money's going.
If you're wondering how much we Americans have had to shell out for this disastrous war in Iran, don't worry. Well, you should worry because it's a big number. But don't worry, we have the facts and the numbers for you. Anna, what is it?
Well, the number is actually a lot higher than what our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, testified before the House of Representatives. Now, we'll get to that in just a moment, but real quick, the data coming out of Brown University shows us just how much the war in Iran is costing the American people, and the numbers are super alarming. So not only have we provided Israel with $30 billion since October of 2023, okay? This pointless war against Iran, which we are, of course, fighting on behalf of Israel, has far surpassed what Pete Hegseth has to say. So let's take a look at what Pete Hegseth told Ro Khanna during this hearing, and then I'm going to reveal the number, which is not what Pete Hegseth is citing. Take a look.
You've testified that it was $25 billion in cost in terms of the munitions we used and what we paid for it. But when you add to that the damage that was done to our bases and today's dollars for buying replacement munitions and replacement aircrafts, what has the total cost been over the last 60 days?
That number right now reflects the total cost that we're seeing.
Including buying in today's dollars the new weapons and replacements, and including the damage there. That's your testimony.
If there's adjustments to that, I would defer to the comptroller on that.
And how much are you seeing in terms of? Are you asking in terms of supplemental funding just for the Iran mission from this committee?
If and when a supplemental is submitted,
how much?
The majority of it would not just be for
what would be the ballpark for Iran?
Munitions related to the entirety
just
of what
number,
we want to get done.
A number. What would you submit?
It would be within on Iran. It would be less than $25 billion. But there's a lot more we would ask for beyond just Iran.
You're saying it's $25 billion. Okay, I would just if you come back, you want to revise those numbers because all the experts are disagreeing with you when it comes to today's dollars and damage.
The reason why Hegseth was struggling in that Q&A is because he was lying and he knew it. In fact, that hearing took place in April, to be fair, but the war from February 28th through June 16th, according to an analysis done by Brown University, has costed our country over $113 billion. I mean, and they have other trackers as well, Cenk, including how much we Americans are forced to pay additional energy costs, right, as a result of the inflation due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and all of that. And so take a look at this next graphic. The cost of oil has jumped up 40.9% since the start of the conflict. And as you can see, that has increased the cost per gallon of gas by $1.15. Now, of course, that does fluctuate quite a bit. But at the end of the day, we are paying a lot more. The Iran war has cost Americans roughly $1,000 per household in higher fuel, food, and other expenses since the start of the conflict in February, according to an estimate shared last week by Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi. Okay, so that is out of control. And remember, it would be one thing if we are shelling out all this money for a necessary war to protect American national security, but that's not what this is. That is not what this is at all. We are losing American soldiers and bankrolling this war on behalf of a foreign country. Back to you, Cenk.
Yeah. Or if we were doing a war and it costs this much and it's heartbreaking and super tough times for Americans, but at least we're stopping a genocide like we did in Kosovo or Srebrenica, et cetera, or the Holocaust. I'm super proud that America stepped up and saved all those people from, getting further, annihilated in those horrible concentration camps during the Holocaust. But in this case, we're paying for a genocide and for more wars. And 80% of Americans don't want this war. 82% of Israelis do. But if you look at it closer, you take out the Palestinians, Arabs that are Israeli right now, 93% of Israeli Jews say, yes, we want this war. Then I have a very simple question for them. Where's my $1,000 check? Every one of us had to spend $1,000 for the war you wanted, and 8 out of 10 of us didn't want. So when are you going to pay for it? Like whenever we ask for health care for Americans, which by the way, every other developed nation has universal health care, and every liar in mainstream media pretends like it's some extraordinary thing that's impossible to pay for. But whenever Israel wants more war, Jake Tapper and everybody else on cable news never ask the question, how are you going to pay for it? They say you must pay for it, otherwise we're going to call you an anti-Semite, okay? So all of you Americans, back to work. You haven't given Israel enough money and enough war. And get a load of this stat. This war is costing us $42 million per day. Just kidding, $42 million per hour. Every hour that goes by, so you watch all those World Cup games, boom, that's $84 million that this war cost us. It just keeps going and going and going. And our government and our media says you have no choice at all. What did you think you were, in a democracy? Did you think you had freedom? We don't care if 8 out of 10 Americans don't want this war, or 98 out of 100 Americans, or 100 Americans don't want this war, because this war isn't for you. You're the dumb mules who have to pay for the war of the country that Washington actually loves, which is Israel. And there is no disputing that. These are all stone cold facts. The polling is absolutely real. Americans despise this war and don't want it. And our government and our media says, shut up and get back to work. Israel needs more money and more war. And now the question is, how much longer are we going to tolerate that? And elections in New York and Colorado show not much longer.
I hope not. But for the moment,
make this one simple change when filling out your FAFSA to cut your EFC and SAI in half.
You have the Trump administration asking for additional funding for the war against Iran, which makes me worried, Cenk, because on one hand, you have these Wall Street Journal articles making it appear as though Trump is pursuing, a diplomatic route. At the same time, why would you need another close to $100 billion in additional war funding? So the White House is seeking an additional $87.6 billion with a B dollars to help with the war against Iran. In a letter outlining the Iran war funding request, the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vought, wrote that $67.1 billion of the fund would be used to cover costs related to the conflict with Iran and would include $21 billion for munitions procurement and the defense industrial base. The request also contains $11.1 billion to U.S. farmers who have been negatively impacted as a result of this war. As I've repeatedly said on the show, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz not only impacts energy costs, but it also has an impact on fertilizer. A third of the world's fertilizer transits through the Strait of Hormuz. And because of this war, because of the closure of the strait, farmers have been unable to either have access to fertilizer, or if they do have access to it, obviously due to the lack of supply and regular demand, the price rises significantly. So they're looking to get Congress to allocate another $11.1 billion in order to provide some relief to the farmers. The latest funding request comes on top of Trump's proposed $1.5 trillion with a T, $trillion budget for the Pentagon, while appropriators in the Senate and House of Representatives have advanced legislation to authorize $1.15 trillion of those funds. The White House's request that the remaining $350 billion be approved in a party line measure has been met, luckily, with skepticism from senior Republicans. Maybe those senior Republicans understand that the American people are paying attention and this is just outrageous and ridiculous. Now, Democrats claim they're going to push back or have been pushing back, although I think it's been largely performative. They did express more explicit concerns about the request, though. Patty Murray, the top Democrat of the Senate Appropriations Committee, blasted the supplemental funding request, saying that the Pentagon currently has $100 billion in unspent funds. So we've already spent over $100 billion fighting Israel's war for them. We've lost 13 service members that we know of. Hundreds of others have been wounded or injured. And then on top of that, you have the Trump administration asking for, close to another $100 billion to fight Israel's war. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So $87.6 billion. Now, what do we do on the Young Turks? We predict things for you guys. Why do we do that? So you see how things work, that everything is scripted. This is all theater. And so if it was the real world and everything wasn't already pre-scripted, we wouldn't be able to predict with any degree of accuracy. Would come out 50-50 on a lot of these issues. Is a bill going to pass or not, right? But we have what I would say is a nearly perfect track record on legislation. So I'm going to predict to you that, yes, they will get the funding that they want, $87.6 billion or something along those lines, in that ballpark. Why? But the Democrats said they were going to block it. There's all these Republicans who say that they're disgruntled with the war. So, wow, the media says it's 50-50. Oh, my God, I wonder what's going to happen. And every article says, oh, my God, the Democrats are going to block it. Is it going to be successful? They're not going to block it. It's all fake. They're going to get just enough votes to be able to pass whatever appropriation they want for Israel. Because if they need Democratic votes, you think Fetterman won't help them? Fetterman threatened just yesterday to say that there's one litmus test for him. He can stay in the Democratic Party no matter what they do. But if they betray Israel, that's it, he's out, right? I mean, he's so brazen. He's saying, I love Israel more than America. And so you can betray America, I don't mind, in 1,000 different ways. But if you don't do exactly as Israel orders, I'll vote with the Republicans. So he's going to vote with them if they need the vote, and even if they don't need the vote. And then you think they can't find other Democrats? Of course they can, but it doesn't matter. They're going to find enough Republicans to vote with them. Israel always gets what it wants from our government. This is not complicated at all. This wouldn't be a debate. It wouldn't be controversial if it weren't for the industrial lying of legacy media. Because every reasonable, rational person knows, you think the Israeli lobby gave money to 94% of Congress for their health, to cure cancer? Do you think that the politicians who took millions of dollars from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby are going to vote against them out of principle? You'd have to be so incredibly stupid as to be a national reporter to believe that. That's almost never happened. So no, they will do as they are told by the people who funded their campaigns. And in this case, that's the Israeli lobby. So we will get more wars, you will get robbed, and all of Washington works for Israel. And good news, I'm saying it ahead of time. So if I'm wrong, and they said, that's it, we're not funding this war anymore and the war ends, you can come out here and go, oh, Cenk, you see that? You didn't know anything about politics, and Israel doesn't control America at all. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So Operation Epstein Fury. One of these things I've been telling you is that Israel has something on Trump. There's no doubt in my mind about it. But that's just my opinion. I have no proof of that, other than the fact that, Netanyahu just visited Trump. And what did Trump immediately do? He launched on Iran with a big strike. Once again, of course, they said it was because Iran struck 3 commercial vessels. They didn't sink them, just so you know. I don't know what damage was done. It was, from what I understand, it was a kamikaze drone on maybe all 3. I know for one for sure. But this is Thomas Massey talking about the Epstein files. Let's get it. It's just a brief video, but let's watch Thomas Massey. I really like him.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of revelations still to come out over what Epstein did and his connections to government officials in Israel. There's the the audio tape of Jeffrey Epstein advising Ehud Barak on how to leverage the things that he did while he was in office once he becomes a private citizen to extract favors from people. I thought that was very revealing. So I haven't seen the emails you're talking about, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. The Oversight Committee's contribution to this effort has been an absolute and total joke. We basically just bring in people over there and giving them almost a whitewash. Once they do some perfunctory testimony there in the Oversight Committee, they check the box. It says, I've showed up and done something.
All right, so that was video of Thomas Massie. The next hero of mine, just because I love what he says, is Dmitry Medvedev. If you didn't know, he's Russian, probably second in command to Putin. And he actually attended the funeral. He was on his way back. And I got two videos of him. The first is he was actually at the funeral, paying his respects. Now, if you didn't know, in the media, they're reporting, I don't know, they said something like 40 nations showed up to pay their respects. No, man, it was over 100 nations have been attending the funeral, and it's still going on. I think it might end today. Yeah, I think it ends today. All right, so we got Dmitry Medvedev at the paying his respects. So the Russian delegation was there, but the next one's going to really shock you. Let's watch Dmitry right now.
تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين العظيم.
Okay. Before we keep going, I got another, let's look at the Saudi delegation. Yes, Saudi Arabia attended the funeral of the Imam Khomeini. And that shocked a lot of people. Let's look at the Saudis at the funeral.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد كان لكم آية في فئتين التقتا.
All right, and then we're going to continue on. We got another video of Dmitry. He's on his way back to Russia. This was actually a day or two ago. And he talks about the Strait of Hormuz, and he says that's Iran's nuclear weapon. I couldn't agree more. Let's watch that now.
Иран вместо настоящего ядерного оружия обнаружил у себя другое оружие, которое не слабее ядерного, а именно Ормузский пролив, который имеет сложный международный статус, связанный и с наличием Ирана с одной стороны, и Омана с другой стороны, и того, как осуществляется проход через этот пролив. Но перекрыв движение, Иран, конечно, в этом смысле показал свою силу, и теперь вокруг этого и идут разговоры и достигаются договоренности о том, каким образом этот пролив будет дальше функционировать. Думаю, что у Ирана есть в запасе еще не только вот это ядерное оружие, но и термоядерное оружие, а это Баден-Мальдебский пролив, который может использоваться в случае возникновения военных.
All right. Now, if you didn't know, we got two reporters over there. We got Jason Hinkle and Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone, I encourage you to watch the Gray Zone. It's a great news broadcast. I think it's It's on YouTube, but I would imagine he posts other places. I don't know where. But we've got Max Blumenthal and Jackson Hinkle, and let's just watch those clips back to back to back. I had 2 clips of Max. I might have 3 when I get home. I think he posted another video just here recently. But I want you to notice what Iran looks like, okay? One of the things that I noticed is that the Iranian people are treating them well. Okay, can you imagine if an Iranian reporter came to the United States? You think we'd treat them very nicely? No, people probably spit on them. They'd kick them. The government would probably harass them. The CIA, the FBI would probably be following them around. But no, this is, and also notice how everybody is free. All they're walking around, the men are just hanging out with the women. There's no suppression going on. Let's watch those videos now.
I'm here at the compound of the late leader, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, which was bombed on February 28th by the US-Israeli coalition at the start of Operation Epstein Fury, or what I guess you could call Operation Epic Fury. Benjamin Netanyahu convinced Donald Trump to do this strike in a meeting in the White House Situation Room where Netanyahu sat at the head of the table, and he promised Donald Trump that if they decapitated Iran's leadership, regime change would come in days. And what they found out was exactly the opposite. The United States was plunged into a failing war in which it suffered one of its worst military defeats, which will echo for a generation. Ali Khamenei was killed in this compound with members of his family, including his granddaughter, and also commanders of the IRGC, top advisors. And these were the men who had prepared for a war for decades that wound up defeating the most powerful empire in history. In my hand, I have a circuit board which was blown up in the US-Israeli bombing of Sharif University, which is where I'm standing right now in the middle of Tehran. This was the AI facility of Sharif University. $100 million worth of GPU were destroyed in this attack, which was part of a wider attack on Iran's economy, its oil production base, and particularly its knowledge base. Why did the US and Israel attack this building, and what kind of setback did you experience here at the university as a result?
Generally speaking, this spot was the heart and brain of Sharif University's processing and operations. In a project that the university has been running with the country's scientific department for a few years now, a large part of the AI industry, meaning the GPUs and racks needed for processing and the highly valuable infrastructure was located here. It was Sharif's technology hub. Practically, by hitting this spot, the university's most vital point is blocked from all technological and scientific activities, and it's brought to a standstill.
Our government said, they're just trying to free the Iranian people, women, life, freedom, and get rid of this tyrant, religious maniac, and everybody will be free. But then they start attacking universities and oil production facilities. How do you personally feel about this? And do you think this changed the mindset of Iranians who may not have supported the Islamic Republic?
Besides the US itself saying such a thing, unfortunately, many of these university students who are considered the elite and study here thought that a US attack would bring good things and open doors. But the point is, you see, when there's an attack, this is the kind of thing they target. The university's ICTC department, the heart, the center and brain of the university, where all university activities are probably going to be put on hold for a while, just as they were. I'm really curious to know, I talk to students here and there, but I want to know what they think now that a center like this, which was probably built with the people's own money since it was a state-run place, has been damaged. What's their take? How do they think the US is going to bring them freedom?
Is there anything else you want to say?
If I had to sum it up, I think it's just one sentence. I'm not talking about technology or the university specifically. I don't think any foreign country, especially the US, has ever in history been able to bring them freedom, development, prosperity, and security. I think this is a lesson for the entire elite class worldwide to see that this is what American freedom looks like.
I'm currently at the Tehran Mosalla, and actually we're here a day before the funeral procession begins. So you can see behind me there are giant portraits and billboards, these beautiful graphics all across Iran right now displayed, dedicated to the life and legacy of the martyred leader. And actually right here below the Quranic verse on the stage, you can maybe see in the corner there, that is actually the exact location. That is where the body of Sayyid Ali Khamenei will be resting for the duration of its time in Tehran. So right now things are very calm. Things are preparing for tomorrow's massive procession. There are going to be tens of millions of people that take part in this funeral to pay their respects. And already today we've seen dignitaries from over 100 nations here in Tehran to come pay their respects. This is going to be the largest funeral in human history, and there's not a single man who could deserve it more than the martyred leader. We're here at Sharif University here in Tehran, Iran. The funeral procession of Sayyid Ali Khamenei is ongoing right over to my right. There are millions of people in the street, but you can clearly see where I'm standing, the situation is a little bit different. This was one of the major GPU AI hubs of not just Sharif University, but the entire Islamic Republic of Iran. You can see some of the remains of this center here, this technology center. You see the work of the students here. This very center hosted over $100 million worth of GPU that's used for AI, used for technological sovereignty, scientific sovereignty. And I gotta ask the question, President Trump, you said that you were going to liberate Iran. You said you were going to free the people of Iran. That's what all these Zionists, all these Iranian diaspora, these cockroaches and parasites were saying for so long. If you wanted to liberate Iran, what is this? What is this? You're bombing universities. I've been to Lebanon, I've been to Iraq, I've been to Yemen, I've been to all these countries, Russia, and the war zones. They always bomb the universities because they do not want the people to have freedom of mind. They don't want them to be able to develop in a sovereign manner. And we know that AI is the future. That's why this was targeted. Thank God it was targeted in the middle of the night. The university was closed and there were no casualties. The only casualty, I guess, is the ongoing progression and fight for the digital and economic sovereignty of Iran, which will not be stopped by a few bombs. I'm again, just find myself disgusted by the actions of the U.S. empire, by Trump, Netanyahu, and all of their accolades and allies across the world.
All right, so that was Jason Hinkle and Max Blumenthal. Now, we got a few videos. I wanted to put these up because right now, the American news media says, oh, a couple 100,000 people are out marching in the streets to watch the funeral of Khomeini. No, people, it's in the tens of millions. The biggest figure I've heard was 10 million people in the streets all over Iran. Tehran alone has over 1 million, or I don't even know how many millions were marching in Tehran. You can't even get, what was it, Syed? He couldn't even get close to the funeral pyre of the Ayatollah. But let's watch some of that video of these crowds. You tell me if this is just a couple 100,000 people. Let's watch that back to back right now.
70 سال از عمر خود دور از حرم بودی حالا که دیگر رسته از رنج و بلا رفتیم آیا بگو بعد از شهادت کربلا رفتیم آیا بگو بعد از شهادت کربلا در امنیت بی رنج و بی درد و بلا رفتیم هر اربعین جای تو ما تا کربلا رفتیم هر اربعین جای تو ما تا کربلا.
Okay, so that was the crowds there. Then I want to get finished up with one of the most heinous crimes that Israel has ever committed against the United States other than spying on us, which, by the way, looks like Congress, since they're in the back pocket of Israel, they are going to vote in that bill, which will essentially give Israel control of the United States military. It'll also give Israel the ability to use our satellite imagery and access to all of our intelligence information. So Israel, they will no longer have to spy on the United States. They can just tell the U.S. military what to do. And I do believe the bill is going to pass. And like I said, they got something on Trump. I bet Trump's going to sign that into law. So we're losing our sovereignty to Israel. We'll soon be a vassal state of Israel. Isn't that amazing? You'd think Israel would be a vassal state of the United States. Blows my mind. But this was a U.S. Liberty survivor. If you didn't know, Israel attacked that ship back in the 60s. I want to say it was 67. I can't remember the exact year. And this video went viral as he talks about the attack on the ship by Israel. Israel was trying to sink the Liberty, by the way, in a false flag attack. Fortunately, the Liberty was able to get out a distress call, so Israel had to halt the attack. But not before they killed 35 of our sailors. Let's finish up with this video now.
I burned this evil flag on the 4th of July in remembrance of my 34 brothers tattooed in my arm who were slaughtered by Israel June 8, 1967. I also call out all the Zionist Congress senators. You're supposed to fight for this country, not Israel. So you should be voted out, all of you. Thomas Massey for president, 2028.
Okay, so now I just want to say, I hope that you're learning something. I still got a Zionist buddy of mine. He still thinks Israel's the greatest thing and that they need to exterminate all the Palestinians. They need to continue bombing Lebanon because of Hezbollah. They need to take over all of Lebanon and basically kill all the Christians and the Muslims there. Exterminate everything, man. That's a Zionist for you. So we're watching the world burn together at the Burn channel on Rumble, the Burn channel on BitChute, the Burn Report on YouTube, and Telegram, and then of course on X. Peace out. Stay free, stay frosty, and the next video will be about Ukraine, strictly on Russia and the Ukraine war. I wanted to do both in this video, but I had too much material on the what's going on with the funeral, what's going on with the war, and everything else. Peace out, stay free. I'll probably end up attaching a few videos to the end of this because things are happening rapidly right now. And as soon as I get home, I'll get some more clips and tack it on to the end of this video. All right, peace out. Yeah, it's coming in through multiple sources now. Man, the mosquitoes are out today too. Dagnabbit. Got to make this quick. I forgot to say, when I was talking about Max Blumenthal, if you didn't know, he's Jewish. And actually in Iran, they have a pretty significant Jewish population. And if you didn't know, Iran also has a Christian population. I forgot to point those things out. So anyway, I just wanted to add that clip to the video and confirm that, yeah, we're we're back at war. I guess Daniel Davis is on live right now, talking about the implications. I don't know. I think this time. Oh, I wanted to point out. I was telling you that the pause was just a time for Trump to get some more weapons in place, and for Iran to also develop their weapons capacity. On the way back, I wanted to add to the video just a little bit. It is confirmed. Sorry, I've got the bugs on me. It is confirmed that it's been some pretty significant strikes. I don't know. I would imagine that this might be the time that Iran is going to launch on Israel for what they're doing to Lebanon. If you didn't know, that conflict hasn't calmed down at all. But I do want to guide you over, because I watched a great video. Colonel McGregor, Douglas McGregor, if you're not familiar with him, he does a lot of interviews on YouTube. But he's gone ahead and opened up his own channel, and it's called The Warrior something or other. Warrior. Anyway, if you look up Warrior, I'm sure you can find it. I can't remember. There's another word and thing. And he just did an interview at the Manassas, I believe it was the Manassas battlefield, and it was in front of the statue of Stonewall Jackson. We'll get to that in just a minute. It was Daniel Davis and Joe Kemp. I'll tell you what, Joe Kemp, he's got my respect, man. He's the only guy to resign, although you could say Tulsi Gabbard resigned, even though she said it was to help her husband. I think it was, or she was fired or told to leave, be my guess. You know, Trump, that sack of cow manure, hasn't kept one of his promises. He lied his way into the office. And but I think the Republicans are going to pay. Well, I mean, it's really the uniparty, so I guess it doesn't matter who's in charge. Although the Democrats, when they get in charge, they do worse things. I mean, when they brought all those kids in and sent them to brothels and let the pedophiles rape them over and over again, I think that was more heinous than what Trump has done in office. So, you know, the Democrats can be worse. That's for darn sure. But anyway, he pointed out, because they made the interview in front of the statue of Stonewall Jackson. We've talked about Stonewall Jackson in my previous videos, probably one of the greatest generals in the history of the United States. You know, he defeated 2 Union armies with a lesser force in just one battle. That was an incredible feat, among other things, before they say it was one of his own soldiers that shot him. It could have been a spy in his miss. There's been speculation on both ways, although it's always been reported that it was one of his own soldiers and mistook him for a Yankee. Anyway, I didn't realize this, but the Stonewall Jackson Monument used to be at West Point in a prominent location. Well, because of all the Democrat lunacy over the Confederacy, they moved it. Which, by the way, if you didn't know, the Democrat Party was the party of the Confederacy. so for them to say that they hate the Confederacy doesn't make any sense, because they were the Confederates. Anyway, getting back to the statue. So they moved it from, I'm glad they didn't destroy it, thank God. I don't know what happened to Lee's monuments that were in Richmond, Virginia. I don't know if they destroyed them or just moved them. I guess I could ask one of the AIs. But anyway, it's at Manassas battlefield now, if you ever want to see it. And it's got an inscription on it, which is pretty profound. I wish I could remember it. I should have written it down before I came out to make this video. But, you know, you can only do so much preparation for a video like this. Anyway, damn, I had something else. Oh, I wanted to talk about AI for just 1 second, because I am that cybersecurity guy on YouTube also. I'm working more and more with ChatGPT. You know, I put together all the directions for my video studio using Grok over and over and over again. And Grok did a good job, don't get me wrong. I mean, without that AI, I dare say my video studio would suck. But anyway, so I decided to, because I was getting better information out of ChatGPT. So I said, let's run these directions by ChatGPT and see what he has to say. I'm going to tell you what, holy moly. ChatGPT will come back and say, you know, your directions are pretty good. About 80, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. But here's a few things I would change to make them more accurate, or change the wording. And it's like ChatGPT is writing my book for me. I mean, it does a better job. I mean, I'm feeding it the directions that Grok put together, But I'm telling you, ChatGPT seems like the AI to use more so than Grok. Just saying. All right, I told you that ceasefire wasn't going to last long. Breaking news here. We got Israel is bombing civilian areas in Ali al-Tahar in the middle of the night in southern Lebanon. As we're walking back, there is the boss dog in all his glory. I'll keep watching the news on the way back.
Gunboat shadow tankers in the narrow blue. One spark could cut 20% of the world in two. Ceasefire whispers fade as the blockade takes hold. MV Tusker disabled, her engines growing cold.
Ticking closer, no time left to lose. Tensions rising, words ignite across the wires. Warning shots echo as the stakes climb higher.
USS Bruins fires on the engine room tonight. Marion's fast dropping from the Tripoli in the fight. Almost horizon, ships turn back, skies fade to black, jet fuel running dry. There's no turning back. Lufthansa grounded, KLM feels the strain. Ryanair feels the sting. Empty terminals whisper through the rain. If the conflict burns on, shaped by your wordless hands. Global forces pull strings while the people make their stand. Your wings in the air, the world begins to unfurl. Madman at the wheel, driving us from this world. And the prices rise while the orders fly. Oil climbing higher, Brent near 96 once more. Europe counts the hours, 6 weeks of kerosene left in store. Refineries fall quiet, trucks stall in the glow. One narrow strait decides how far the whole world goes. Food shelves growing empty, cargo reroutes round the Cape. A calculated game, turning crisis into shape. This is the brink, history's final choice. The greatest shock the modern world has ever known. IEA warns of crisis deeper than seeds already sown. From Chabahar to the Gulf of Oman, the seizure made it clear. Iran calls it on piracy, retaliation draws near. Deluge cargo suspected, the ship now in US hands. Talks collapsing in Pakistan across the shifting sands. Trump claims victory, says he prohibited bombing Lebanon. and the spider keeps weaving tighter every day.
Then the shortages deepen when the shelves run fully bare. Medicine disappears, hospitals fill with quiet despair.
Blackouts sweep the cities, factories fall to dust. Riots spark in shadows as the final chains combust.
Winter brings a colder dark with no fuel left to burn. Fields lie empty, children learn what hunger means in turn.
Those who hoard the last reserves watch the masses come apart. This energy war etches scars forever on the heart.
And it's all unraveling beneath their careful game. Years unfold in silence if the strait stays closed too long. Economies unravel, supply lines break and yawn.
Schools shut down forever, hospitals lose their light. Nations turn on neighbors in the never-ending night.
Globalists reshape the map while the old world fades away, profiting from the chaos in the breaking of the day.
Famine spreads like wildfire, migration floods the shore. Civilization fractures, what was built crumbles to the floor.
Madman tweets thunder while the world holds its breath.
Armors rising, ships turn back, skies fade to black, jet fuel running dry. There's no turning back. Airlines cut their routes, grounded dreams ignite. Summer slowly turns to ashes in the endless night. If the conflict burns on, shaped by reckless hands, global forces take hold while the old world slowly stands. No wings in the air, the world begins to unfurl.
Madman at the wheel, driving us from this world. What if the tanks run empty and the lights all fade to black? No flights across the oceans, no simple way to turn back. Cities slow then crumble, anger rises in the streets. From distant orders to the silence at our feet, the words like distant thunder, threats of worlds undone, pawn against pawn beneath the rising sun. USS Spoons fires on the engine room, Marines fast roping from the Tripoli. MV Tuska now in U.S. custody, could become spoils of war. Iran calls it armed piracy, blatant aggression, we will respond. Europe has maybe
falls silent from the sky. Before the last city flickers out and says goodbye. Before the final chain snap and we lose all that we built, let the warmongers step back, let wiser voices tilt. Open the strike once more, let the tankers freely flow. Before the fragile world we share collapses from the One planet deeply connected, too precious to destroy. Just peace above all else. It's our only path of joy. Harm's horizon. Let the healing light begin. Ceasefire now, before the end sets in. Peace in the strait, or we all fall in.